we start?
Only 5 people have, no, 40, okay.
Okay.
Yes, we can go now.
Okay. Should we start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can start now.
Okay. I welcome the listeners to this, to the audience to this session, this interview with renowned filmmaker Aparna Sen. This program is brought to you by FFSI, which is the Federation of Film Societies of India, and Fipresci. And Mr. Aparna Sen's father, Chidanan Das Gupta, was closely involved in both of them at their beginnings, and he was the first president of Fipresci as well. So I take this opportunity to welcome Aparna ji to this thing. It's a privilege to talk to her here. So I will begin by asking questions. Is that okay, Aparna ji? Is it all right? Shall we start?
Of course, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
my pleasure, please. Um, your father was a pioneer. You're a person who's donned many hats. You've a multifaceted personality. Person who's been involved in acting, writing, journalism, and direction. We are
That's
more
right.
interested because in our platform. I'm more interested in your work as a director. But the thing is, you came from a very cinephile background. Can you give us some sense of what kind of exposure you had to cinema in your early days, in your childhood and your youth?
Well, Raghavendra ji, my parents lived what can be called a life in the arts because that was their life. We used to spend our time, my parents used to read poetry to me. They would take us to art exhibitions, dance recitals. They would take us to Calcutta Film Society shows. In fact, we had a house with a very large veranda, and over there was an 8 millimeter camera where we saw the best of world cinema. So we really were exposed to the arts in a big way. I mean, we were taken to art exhibitions, museums, music conferences, everything. And we used to listen to Western Indian classical music, world music, and pour over books of art with my parents. And the most important thing is that we had a great sense of self worth because my parents didn't criticize us very much. There weren't too many rules, and they praised us a lot for any little thing that we did that they deemed praiseworthy. They used to praise us. So, our self esteem was given a huge boost. And I never felt that as a girl, because I was a girl child, there was anything in the world that I couldn't do.
Okay. Were there any? Can you cite any individual experiences with the cinephilia? That is, a film viewing that you watched which influenced you deeply. Otherwise, cinephiles have that great moment. I mean, that's,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm saying, was there some great moment with cinema in your film watching in your early days, which
Yeah.
stayed with you in your mind for a long period of time, which later
Oh,
made you
yes, yes. Yes. One of the things that stayed with me for a very, very long time was the Passion of Joan of Arc.
there?
You
Yeah.
know, um, I forget the name of the filmmaker at this point of time. You will probably remember, but I remember very well how how her face in close up.
Yes, yes.
The actor who played Joan of Arc, her face in close up, and also death. Uh, those moments have stayed with me in a big way. Another moment that has stayed with me is, Ivan the Terrible. We saw Ivan the Terrible,
Eisenstein.
and
Yeah.
this huge hall, and this door opening, and the light falling through the door. This has been done so many countless times after that, but that was the first time that I saw anything like that.
Okay, so these were these were the moments which sort of probably the early silent cinema. Of course, Ivan the Terrible would be the 30s, part one, part two, and this was very a silent film, which Joan Passion of Joan of Arc Dyer's film. It was in
Yeah.
the 25 or 26 or some such thing.
Yeah, it was an old film, but at that time we were not allowed to watch any populist cinema at all.
Okay,
The first Bengali film that I saw was Pathe Panchali,
first one.
very first one.
Okay,
We were not
yes, yes.
allowed to watch anything. We were also very young.
Okay,
Um, I mean, when Pather Panchali released, I was not even 10.
Okay.
So before that, the girls in school, they used to watch those Suchitra Uttam starras, and they used to talk about that. And then we used to complain bitterly to our parents, saying, we can't
Yes.
participate in the competition,
Okay.
and we want to watch those films. Then we haven't watched any Bengali films, etc. And
Okay.
then they said, Baba said, I remember that you just wait one more year.
Okay.
And Manik used to call Suchitra Manik. Manik's film, Pather Panchali, will be released, and then you will be allowed to see it. And I remember how deeply moved we were. I couldn't stop crying after the film was over. And I had no preconceived notions about, this kind of cinema. So, I didn't expect any sort of romancing of hero heroine or anything like that. I just went with the flow of the story as it unfolded. And,
Was
we absolutely, we adored Indi Thakrun and the entire family of Opu, Durga, Sarboja, and Horihar. We identified with them so much. And today, Raghavendraji, at this age, I realized that, remember when I think Nargis ji had said once that Satyajit Ray is selling India's poverty
poverty.
abroad.
Yes. In the Rajya Sabha, I think. Yes.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said that. Yeah.
Who had said that?
Nargis in the Rajya Sabha. He said
Yeah.
that in the Rajya
Now,
Sabha. Yes.
but I feel that on the contrary, he was investing them with dignity because you
Absolutely.
identified with them so much and they were given a voice. They were
Yes.
they were like they were like real people like you and me instead of being some rural people that you didn't know anything about.
Yes. Since your father was a close friend of Satyajit Ray,
That's right.
when the film was being made, when Pather Panchali was being made, were there already expectations about which way the film was going to turn out?
I'm sorry, already?
Saying there were there already expectations from your father. I mean, your father
Oh,
would
yes,
already know how it was
absolutely.
going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, from all the intellectuals of Calcutta, I think at that time,
Yeah,
there was great expectations.
because we only know it as a finished product. We don't know how what was going on, behind the scenes
Uh,
exactly what was
You know, they
expected.
used to they used to sit at a place called the India Coffee House, I think in
College.
no, not College Street Coffee House. This was the
Okay.
India Coffee House, possibly in Central Avenue. I don't know.
Okay.
But there were a lot of people like Kumar Prasad Mukherjee, the singer, then Radha Prasad Gupta, R.P. Gupta, as he was known. All these people used to come, and they all of them had very, very high expectations of the film.
Okay. No, you began as an actress. What was your first experience as I mean, from behind the camera? First experience from behind the camera.
You know, I don't remember which the first shot was, but I had actually acted in school, and I'd already decided to be an actor. Now I remember a little disappointed because I was constantly told what to do, look that way, look that way, because I was a newcomer. So Ray had a very, very clear notion of what he wanted. And he used to tell me, but this used to make me feel a bit disappointed because I was not getting to show off any acting talent. Uh, but I realize now that he was using me actually. But there was one day, which I'll tell you about, where I had this squirrel in my hand, this squirrel called Chorki, and I was supposed to carry it in my hand. And, I was supposed to
Samapti.
stand outside.
Samapti. From Samapti?
That's right,
Yeah,
some.
yeah, yeah.
I was
Okay.
supposed to stand outside the window of my friend Rakhal's living room, where his sister was being shown as a prospective bride to Shomita Chatterjee.
Okay.
And the squirrel is supposed to slip out of my hand and go into the room. Then I go after it and I create complete chaos in that room. But the thing is that the squirrel used to always um, actually wriggle out of my hand every time I loosened my fist even a little bit. But that day it sat on the palm of my hand, not moving at all. So I didn't know what to do. And I heard people saying that now it will be cut. I could hear people say. But, Manik Kaka, as I called him, didn't cut. and I didn't want. I didn't want the film, shot to be rejected on my account. So I pretended that I was showing it better to Rakhal, and I put it on the sill, you know, of the window. And then when it slipped out, I pretended to be very upset and got in. And I heard Bansi Chandragupta, whom I called Bongshi Kaka, he was saying Holona, Holona means it wasn't okay. But Manik Kaka was laughing a lot, and he said, but I rather liked it. And that shot has remained in the film. So that has been one of the high points in my
Right. Okay.
acting in Shabdi.
What about your actually experiences from behind the camera? I mean, looking through the camera, not in front of the camera. What about those? Your first experience, because you became a director later on.
Yeah. And actually, we started with the shot of the pujas, because the pujas, that year we started actually shooting on December 3, because the pujas were earlier. So, and also it was raining sometimes. So we shot some rain shots and the puja shots at that time, earlier on, before we started the actual shooting. Um, and my experiences were, how should I say, I could see the film so clearly in my mind that I had actually no problem. I mean, I often, I couldn't say what lenses I wanted. Ashok Mehta often would ask me that, what lens should I put, ma'am? So I would say, I don't know, just show me a few samples. And then he would show me, and then I would say, no, I want this. So I was very, because I was, that picture was absolutely, I had complete clarity about the visuals I wanted. So I don't, it was not, it was very exciting, of course.
What is the?
Oh,
This was
I
the first
remember
film.
one
Your first
thing.
film, is it?
Yeah,
This is
I remember one thing that is quite funny. That is, I was feeling very shy to say start and cut
okay.
because I had never done that. I had never been a director before. And so I told my assistant that I said, listen, I'll poke you in the back and or in the arm, and then you say start. And when I poke you again, you say cut. Okay. He said, it's the other way around. I will poke you and you say start. And then I poke you and you say cut.
Okay.
But because most of the directors that he had worked with, particularly first time directors, he had to actually tell them what to do.
Okay.
But because I was so I was so completely convinced about my film and so clear about the visuals, I said no. But I felt very shy to say start and cut. This I remember.
You're talking about 36 Touring Lane.
36 during Elaine, my very,
Like
very
any
first.
short films or anything before that? Short
So
films, some experience. Any short films before that? Any other experiences making films before?
nothing. That was the very, very first film that I ever did.
Okay. Can you tell us something about the making of that film in the sense that I don't mean I mean the actual conception of the film. Can you tell us something? How did you come up with the idea of making an English language film? The story, that kind of thing. How did
You
you?
know what happened? I was actually shooting in Bombay for a mainstream film. But I was most unhappy, and I was waiting in the makeup room, and I was thinking that, oh, for the rest of my life, will I just keep having to do this? Acting in films that I don't believe in and the kind of cinema I don't believe in. Because these were all mainstream. And at that time, mainstream cinema was even much more mainstream than it is today. So today, the dividing lines between mainstream cinema and art cinema
Right.
has blurred somewhat, but at that time it was very, very, very marked. The differences were marked.
Hmm.
So then I said I can't keep doing this. So why don't I do something? Why don't I start writing a short story? Because I used to be reasonably good at writing in school and college, and so I started writing a short story. But I didn't want to write about something I didn't know, even though I was at that time a disciple of Utpal Daksh, and I was very much very leftist and so on and so on. so forth. But I didn't try to write about farmers or factory workers, because I said I don't know their life. So then I thought, why don't I write about some, one of our school teachers who taught us in school.
Okay.
And I used to see these Anglo-Indian teachers who were not always very good teachers, but they were very affectionate and very good people. I used to feel very sorry for them, because at that time, Anglo-Indians were looked down upon quite a lot. So I started writing, but it became more and more visual, and it became longer and longer and longer, far longer than a short story should be. And at one point, I even caught myself writing dissolve.
Okay.
So I said, this doesn't want to be a short story, it wants to be a film.
Okay. All right.
So I then wrote it. It took a long time, I wrote it out as a screenplay after that.
So Miss Stoneham is actually taken from one of your school experiences. Roughly, I
Well,
mean, a kind of action taken from that.
she was modeled on some of our teachers, particularly one Miss Cole,
Okay.
who used to teach us Shakespeare very badly.
Okay.
But there was something of her, not entirely, not entirely.
Okay. Because Miss Stoneham resides from Lear, if I remember right.
I'm
King
sorry.
Lear. Miss Stoneham resides from King Lear at the end of the play. At the end of the
Yes,
film. Yes, yes.
yes,
So the Shakespeare connection is there. Right, right.
yes. She teaches Shakespeare, but
Okay.
I think she understands Shakespeare through her life experience for the
Okay.
first time that night.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Before that,
Now,
she used to just put down meanings and things like that, meanings of words, and she used to teach Shakespeare very badly. But
okay.
I think she understood Shakespeare herself because
Okay.
of her own experiences of being betrayed.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah, that's right. That's why that's where the scene becomes so poignant because it relates to her in some sense, right? That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Parama is your second film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Parama, you brought this thing of adultery. Raid already handled this thing of adultery. It's not a very common theme. Adultery is not a common theme. What made you bring out this theme of, and how would you sort of, were you influenced by the three of Ray's important films? Um, this Charulata, Gare Baire, and Piku, I think. Piku, all
No,
three.
nothing like that. Nothing like that. What happened was, I first of all I waited 5 years. I think
Okay,
my first film was released in 1981. My
okay,
second film was released in 1985, 4 years later.
okay,
And everyone was saying, "Why aren't you making your second film?" I said, "Because I have nothing to say." But then, there was a friend of mine in school,
okay,
and she was the head girl. She was a very good student. She used to be good at sports, good at elocution, good at studies, good at everything. She was also very good looking. And, you know, um, we admired her a lot, and she was one of my best friends. Then we went to her son's rice ceremony, the first time the child eats rice. And I found this friend of mine from school. She was over there. She was, somebody came to her and touched her feet, saying, "Aunt, how are you?" And she was an aunt-in-law. And then she blessed that girl, and she touched the girl's chin, and she blessed the girl. And then in between, she chatted with us about school. And then somebody else came, some other aunt or some other in-law, and she touched that woman's feet. And somebody was calling her Bodhi, somebody was calling her Kakima. And I thought, where has my friend gone? I mean, in all the social roles that she's playing, she seems to be playing all these different social roles that has cast herself in. Has the original girl got lost? Where is
okay,
she?
okay,
This idea stayed with me for some time, for
okay,
about a couple of years maybe. And then it came out in this film.
okay,
No, this here I was not actually. I think I was very influenced by Ray in terms of the lighting that he did, the detailing that he did, and so on and so forth. But uh, I don't think that I actually ever tried to imitate him or take something from the stories that he did. In fact, when I told him about Parama, I went to him. He was, as I told you, my mentor, as I've told everyone, he really was a mentor. So when I told him about Parama, then he said, "Why are you making this? Because it only ends in heartache. Nobody's happy. What is the use?" So I didn't see it like that. I couldn't explain to him at that time that I it was not, it was about her finding her identity more than about adultery. The adultery part was just a catalyst.
Okay.
Rahul coming into her life, Rahul was a catalyst for really her finding herself. She had
Okay.
got lost among the social roles that she was playing out.
Okay. There is this the scene in the film where the husband is seen to be flirting or in some kind of sexual, or rather, he makes a move of some sort. He gets rejected, right? In
Yeah.
this film. I mean, why did you have to put? Why did you put that scene in? That the husband is also culpable. If he had the chance, he would be culpable.
No, because of the hypocrisy that I found
Yeah, okay.
among the males.
Okay. Okay.
I wanted to bring out that hypocrisy, that
Yes,
it's
yes.
okay for a man to do it, but it's not okay for a woman.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I get that. Yeah. So I can. Yeah, it's a kind of hypocrite. It's there in the other thing, like Paromita Reglin also. She sees the man, right, in the restaurant when she's with her mother. No, no, with the mother-in-law.
Yeah,
That he sees the man in the restaurant. The wife
yeah,
sees that. Yeah. So it's somewhat the same thing, right? It's the same
yeah.
kind of.
Except that over there I did it. Over there I did it mainly because I had to introduce the girl that this man would marry sometime. And you have to try and make your film as economical as possible in terms of writing. One scene has to serve many purposes. So that one scene where she's with her mother-in-law had to serve some other purpose also. So I
Yes.
thought it was a good point to introduce the second wife, the another girl that he would marry.
Okay. Now, you've this situation of women's condition in India is a very important thing in your films. But
Yeah.
it's more at the individual level. You don't look upon, I mean, I wouldn't call you a feminist. I mean, my own sense is that feminists sort of tend to look upon women as a class or a category of some sort. You're always dealing with the individual woman in some sense. Could you
Well,
elaborate on that? What is the generally?
yeah, but then the concept of feminism has changed over the years, and
Okay.
now includes a lot of things. Actually, now includes really all marginalized
Okay.
people. The concept of feminism, early feminism, and today's feminism are very different. I
Okay.
am a feminist, but I'm
Okay.
a feminist more to the extent that I'm a humanist, and my feminism is part of my humanism. I
Okay.
mean, I'm equally concerned with child rights, or equally concerned with rights of female of laborers or mine workers. Or I might not always make a film about it, but I am very concerned about you migrant laborers right now at this point of time. So it's not that I'm just concentrating on feminism. And besides, I don't usually make films with any ism in mind, or with a view to preaching a conscious message, because I don't think that films are a kind of pulpit for somebody to preach. Uh, in fact, uh, I think that Raghavendraji, every person, whether they know it or not, has their own politics.
Yes. Yes.
No, there's no human being who is not political. Actually, the very act of voting is a political act.
Yes. Yes. Me choice.
So
Hmm.
I also have my own politics. It's a left liberal kind of politics, and it's also feminist, very much so. You can't be a left liberal without being feminist.
Okay.
And uh, so I've always actually talked about individuals and tried to approach them deeply, probe into them until I get to the absolutely deepest inner being of the person, the loneliness, the solitary person inside. So through the individual, when I talk about the individual, then a larger kind of, larger politics emerges, often without my knowing it.
So you could say that you will not illustrate doctrine in your films. You're
No, no, I
yeah,
don't like to
yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
that's right.
Like
Because
to do that.
a lot of political cinema is an illustration of doctrine, right? So yeah, that I never find in your films, that you're actually exploring individual experience in some way, which would reflect on political viewpoints, on ideology, and that sort of thing, but never as a vehicle for ideology. Okay, coming
Yeah,
to the other thing, this is very interesting thing of household relationships like marital discord are very important in your films. They occupy a lot of space. Paromita Ek Din, this Paroma,
marriage.
marital discord, household discord, basically.
Oh, marital discord.
Or
Yes, yes,
household discord, yeah,
yes.
between relationships. It takes up a lot of your films and sort of focus a lot on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's there in Paramita Ragin, Juganto, then
Yes.
yeah, in Poroma. It's there in all these films. Yes.
Yeah, there's not much in Indian art cinema doesn't usually deal with this. It doesn't usually deal with household discord.
Nowadays they do, I think.
They do.
Nowadays things have changed. Yeah. No, but marriage, since it's still an institution, of course, I think it's fast disappearing. But it's still, I mean, when I've made these films, marriage is very much an institution that is alive, in our country. And I think it's mostly that most people are polyamorous, but they are forced by society to be monogamous. And also, marriage is one of the most difficult situations, particularly if, unless the hierarchy of male over female is accepted by both parties.
Okay.
So if the woman has a mind of her own, and if she kind of asserts herself, there's bound to be marital discord.
Okay.
So I found that to be true, uh, not only in films. I mean, I've found that to be true around me all the time. And then people keep up a pretense. There are more marriages. I used to think, when I saw happy couples, apparently happy couples, I used to always think that these people are happy. Later, I found out that there was a lot of pretense going on.
Yeah.
That
They
actually there was a
they
lot
have
of
to
marital
maintain some
discord.
outward. They have to maintain certain things. There's party behavior.
Outwardly,
There's social behavior
outwardly,
of some sort. Yeah.
outwardly they maintained
That's
that. Yes,
true. Yes.
yes, yes.
It's also true in America, I think. It's sort of in
Yeah,
Hollywood also there is this big thing of marriage, that happy marriages and that sort of thing.
yeah. They keep talking about family, but they keep divorcing and then changing families.
Yeah, but off screen.
Yeah.
Okay, I found this character played by Soumitra in Paramita Rekdin very interesting. Can you say something about him?
Okay,
The lover who doesn't have the courage. Reminiscent of Kapurush, where he plays a similar role.
Soumitra.
Soumitra,
I'm sorry, come again.
I'm saying this character played by Soumitra in Paramita Rekdin,
Yeah, yeah,
the lover who doesn't have the courage, commitment,
yeah,
right? I was
yeah.
reminded of the same kind of role he played in Kapurush, in Reyes Kapurush.
Yes, except that here he's. I think he's treated with much more sympathy,
Yes. There is
because
some.
I felt a lot of sympathy for this character, who's essentially weak but good. He's a good man. He's a good man. He's very sympathetic to Paramita. He's very sympathetic to Kuku, the
Daughter.
schizophrenic sister-in-law,
Yes.
and all that. So I find him to be a very good man, who is just a weak person. Maybe didn't ever have the financial means to marry somebody like Shonoka, the character that I play. But he loved her all his life, and but she's angry, and she calls him a coward. But if she says that if he had even once asked me, I would have dropped everything, my family, my children, my husband, wouldn't have looked back, and I would have gone with him. But did he have the guts? Men don't have the guts. She says that in her anger. But the point is that if he actually had asked her to elope with him, for instance,
Okay.
uh, how would they have lived? Already she has to pay him for, his medicines and stuff like that, for his extra expenses. She pays him out of her own, her own earnings, which her brother had left her. So I think that that would have been a disaster
Yes.
if she had actually walked out with him. So yeah, you can say it's reminiscent of Kapurush, except that in Kapurush, I don't think Shomitro in Kapurush has a reason for doing what he's doing. Why didn't he in the beginning, right in the beginning? Why didn't he? Well, I think also partly because he couldn't afford it. He said that where will I can't bring you to this room. But then even later on, when he became more financially solvent, even then he was he was not able to
What was his
come
financial
forward.
status actually? Exactly, what was his financial status in that film? He was not, he was hard up, wasn't he? Did he have a job in that film? Barometer.
At that time in Kapuru, Shomitra doesn't have a job,
Yeah.
and he lives in this one room, and he says, where will I bring you? What will I feed you?
Okay.
So he has his reason. But the second time around, what is his reason?
Second
Why
time
doesn't
around,
he?
he looked
He's
like
such a
because
coward.
yeah, he's a coward, and and also he's trying to take advantage of her in some way, without commitment. Again, I mean, it's
Yeah,
not, yeah, it's not sympathetic. Ray's position is not
yeah,
sympathetic.
you don't feel sympathy for Shoumitro, but I think in Paromita Ragdin you do feel sympathy
Yes,
for her.
yeah, he's actually very sympathetic. He's actually a very warm personality. He seems
Yeah,
helpless, but he's very warmly portrayed. Okay.
yeah,
This barometer then this thing of the father's death, right?
yeah,
There are no ceremonies and nothing associated with that. I mean, it's sort of glossed over in some sense. Whereas the mother's death is given a lot of what was there in, is it a conscious decision on your part?
yeah. Yeah, you know what? That was not important. What
Okay.
was important was the sense of freedom that she got after her husband died.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Okay.
what ceremony there was, etc., was not really, I felt, was not important to the story, not
Okay.
important to the character development.
Okay. All right. Now, if you take three films, Barometric, then 15 Park Avenue, also both of them, two of them, have this thing of mental disadvantage, mental illness or disorder as a theme. Can you say something about that? Why you brought that up? What is the,
Yeah, well, I have a relative, a close relative, who has schizophrenia,
okay,
and this was, you can say, my tribute to her. 15 Park Avenue. Paromita Ragdin also, I think, the she actually, I have drawn upon this relative, and because I've seen her condition at very very close quarters. And in Paromita Ragdin, Kuku is also used as, and she's a very kind-hearted person. So is this relative of mine, kind-hearted, hospitable, warm, but with no sense of reality.
okay,
You know? And this has also this thing about what is real and what is not, that has been quite a concern with me, because I've often felt that it's a tyranny of the majority, because all of us, when we see a situation, like the way I will perceive it and the way you will perceive it will be minutely different, won't it? Because we are different people with
yes,
different mindsets and different ways of reacting. But in the case of a schizophrenic, it's widely divergent. I mean, because usually in schizophrenia, and I found out, usually in schizophrenia, it's because they find uh, real life as we know it so painful that they have to create a kind of imaginary life for themselves. Hmm. And of course, there are certain chemicals. that are, that go wrong in the brain, and they have to have medication. And sometimes if it's detected very early, it can be cured. But if it's not often detected early, because people don't, people, first of all, people are very used to be, they're better now, but they used to be very reluctant about exposing the fact that there was somebody who had a mental condition at home. So they would not even see doctors. Lots of people used to think, oh, if you get her married off, she'll become okay, or if you get him married off, he'll become okay. Actually, that never happens. That really doesn't ever happen, because these people, I've talked to doctors, are not really capable of sustaining any long term relationships at all. Um, and I I felt always, that all in most of the films that we've seen, even among the greatest filmmakers, that if you think of the triumvirate of Ray, Sen, and Ghatak, even there, if you think about they have shown the rural poor, by the way, but you don't see any challenged people, very rarely. I can't remember any, at least,
Yeah,
where the person is. Sometimes you have some blind people in some of our films, and then the blind person is kind of. I have played a blind person in a popular film, but usually challenged people are not seen. Um, any kind of mental illness very rarely is shown. Uh, but they form part of our citizenry. They are not invisible. But in our films, we make them invisible.
yes,
And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that at all.
yeah. So yeah, because they're quite moving, these characters. Both of them are schizophrenic, isn't it? Both the
Both
big.
of them are schizophrenic,
Yeah.
and the little child has
So
cerebral palsy. And I
okay,
used to go to this Institute of Cerebral Palsy, started by a lady called Sudha Kaul, whose son had cerebral palsy, and she then started this institute after that. And I felt that it was such an enlightening experience going there. There was even a young girl who was so keen to help us with our continuity. She couldn't speak properly, but she kept trying to tell me that this was not like this. This was like this in the last shot. So it was very moving. I saw a boy who worked on the computer with his with his tongue. He
okay,
Another one worked with his foot, and then he wrote a letter to Madhuri Dixit, because he was a great fan of Madhuri Dixit's. And
okay,
then he asked me to give it to her. I didn't know how to give it to her, so I had it sent to Hussein Saab, and I don't know if she got it.
okay. Okay. In many of your films, this thing of cruelty, and I don't mean violence. I don't mean domestic violence, gender-based violence, but this thing, for example, of people being cruel to each other. Children, for example, mocking the spastic child, making this mock.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this normally you
children.
don't find. Yeah, children, the cruelty on the part of supposedly innocent beings, not normally shown in cinema. This,
But
but
children,
they
but
do.
children can be very cruel.
Very, yeah, but not many people latch on to that in Indian cinema. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, your children are shown only as very sweet.
Yes, I mean with the
Mm.
dulcet voiced and very sweet and completely innocent.
Yeah.
This thing of cruelty of people being not political cruelty like gender-based thing, not domestic violence, but this is there very much in Bergman's films. Fanny and Alexander, the way children are treated, the way, this was Bergman any kind of influence upon you? If I remember right, Ritu Parnam, I think adapted Autumn Sonata. Yeah, I think. But was Bergman an influence upon you? All
Autumn
these,
Sonata. I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Autumn Sonata.
I'm saying Bergman uses this thing of domestic cruelty, cries and whispers, scenes from a
Yeah,
marriage.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
very strong. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's almost unbearable sometimes. But the point is, was it influence on you in all these movies? In this thing of showing this kind of cruelty?
You know something? You see these films and they affect you, but it's very difficult to tell because it's at a subconscious level, and
Yeah.
you can't analyze your own subconscious. So it is possible that it might have had some effect on me because I was deeply moved by Cries and Whispers, for instance, or Fanny and Alexander. But I don't know if
Not a direct influence. Yeah, I know because
I can't
yeah,
tell. I can't
the
tell.
world becomes different after watching Bugman in some sense. You start noticing things in the world which you didn't notice earlier. So amplified by art. That's one of the things of cinema amplified, probably that way.
Perhaps the thing is your world vision, your vision of life is formed by your childhood, the people who brought you up, the relatives around you, your friends, influences, films you see, books you read. It's a complete mix up of all of these things. So it's very difficult to tell what triggered what.
Okay. The Japanese Wife is a film which I found interesting. How did you hit upon it? The complete absence of drama because they never meet. I
Yeah.
mean, how did you arrange that?
This was Kunal Basu is a friend of ours. Now,
Okay.
Kunal and I were once thinking of working on a script together, and he had come over, and we were not making any headway. So we took a coffee break, and then he said, "Let me tell you a story." So then he told me this story, and I was so charmed with it because there's something so bizarre about the fact, bizarre and funny and tender and pure and so many other things about the fact that two people never meet. They consider themselves married through letters, and then they remain faithful to each other all their life.
Yeah.
There's
But the
something
fact,
so
this fact,
charming about it
extremely,
that
extremely
I
charming.
told Kunal, I said, please don't give it to anybody else. I want to make
Because you are not handicapped by the fact that the actors don't play against each other. In interpersonal relations, this thing of actors have to play against each other, right? I mean, like this thing of what is the word? Um, Upstaging each other. There is this tendency, right? That helps usually the director, isn't it? If two actors are confronting each other, there's a certain intense drama brought about by the fact that they're actually people confronting each other. Not only
Yeah,
the characters, yeah, but the fact that that's completely absent here. How did you try to solve that? Did you try to
totally
solve that?
absent.
Sorry?
Totally absent. What is actually very funny is the fact that he goes around with his wife's reports, and then he goes around to doctors, etc., trying to explain, and the doctor says, please bring her, and then she lives in Japan. The whole thing, I found the whole thing actually also very funny and at the same time very tender. And I tried to make it, my intention when I made The Japanese Wife was to make a film which would resemble a Japanese watercolor,
Okay.
very minimalistic, very sort of no drama as such, nothing. Yes, I
What
didn't
about the
want.
actress? Pick her. Where did you? Was she a professional actress? The one who played the wife?
Oh, the actress, the Japanese actress. Well, we went to Japan. We had a very tiny budget for this kind of film because shooting in Japan is very expensive. So we went to Japan, and then there was this hotel that our Japanese production controller took us to this hotel, and he said, all you're allowed to have is a cup of coffee. Uh, you're not allowed to actually eat anything else. And these girls will come. And then I shortlisted, I think, three or four. And then I asked them, can I please feel your head? So they were said, finally, when I got this girl, Chigusa Takaku, I said, can I feel your head? I like you. I want to cast you, but can I feel your head? So she couldn't understand a word of English, and of course we were speaking through interpreters. And then she let me feel her head, and she asked me through the interpreter why. So I said, because she has to have her head shaven, and I want to
Yes.
know what shape her skull is.
Okay.
So that was something quite funny. But she allowed me to do that, and she had a perfectly shaped skull. So it was good.
Okay. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Iyer and Gary by Raj, you've got into political thing which has become very pertinent today.
Yeah.
This politics has become very pertinent. Can you say something about the political role of the artist filmmaker in today's world? What exactly you see your role as your political role as a filmmaker?
Yeah. In fact, it's there in another film also, in a different way, but that's a musical. I made another film called Arshi Nagar based on Romeo and Juliet, which was actually which was not at all accepted by the public, but it's there also in that film. Ever since the demolition of the Babri Masjid, one of the things that I've been deeply concerned with is the lack of communal harmony in our country. And in fact, when I was editor of Shanunda, I was constantly, most of my editorials, in fact, were written about this. Um, and when I started making Mr. and Mrs. Iyer, they were not actually supposed to be Hindu and Muslim. It was just supposed to be a love story, which happens during a journey in a bus. Because I used to think of a journey in a physical journey as a kind of metaphor for an internal journey, because you change during a journey, you discover things about yourself. These things are there. So I I uh, I started writing just about two people, and I don't know how they became Hindu and Muslim.
All right.
Initially, it was not supposed to be like that.
Okay.
But things like that happen. In 36 Chorangi Lane, for instance, Miss Stoneham was supposed to go away. But characters, even characters that you've created yourself, they take on a life of their own. And then they tell you what they want to do.
Okay. They sort
So
of, yeah,
that's
they
what
start living on
happened.
their own, sort of, yeah, that sort of thing
Yeah.
happens.
But you were asking me about the filmmaker's role in terms of politics. I think a filmmaker or a true artist always reacts to what is happening around her or him. This is very important, that the because that the filmmaker any artist is aware of what's happening. Otherwise, we today, we would not have had Picasso's Guernica, for instance. uh, but it's important, and I think Ray also did that. He reacted a lot to what was happening around him. That's why we have his city films, like John Orono, or Pratidwandi, films like that. uh, but I think I don't want to preach, but I think it's important that a filmmaker react in the way she feels about the world around her and the changing world around her. Like in Ghore By Riyaj, it is. I'm not actually talking about any political party as such. I haven't named any political party, and I'm not. I was talking more about the idea of India that is changing. You know,
Okay.
so that to me is something that I should be talking about. And I think a filmmaker should be talking about what is happening around her, but without preaching, and talking through individual stories.
Nowadays, I think there's a tendency to take newspaper reports and make films out of them. I mean, you have mob
And,
lynching, you
uh,
have a film about mob lynching, you have something about caste discrimination,
yeah,
Brahmin Dalit, then you have a film about Brahmin Dalit. It seems to be, I mean, the element of personal experience seems to be mediated by the media, by the newspaper in many ways. I don't see that in your film, that you're really dealing with more organic life in some way, which
no,
politics.
I mean, I haven't made a film about lynching yet.
Yeah. Anything which occupies the newspaper becomes a kind of a kind of guide for what you how you pick up the subject. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. Hello.
Juno,
Yeah, yeah. Please come inside.
Juno.
We can. MK, please wait. I think that there is a power cut.
Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
In
No
our,
problem.
she will be joining.
Well,
Yeah. Just
can you
wait.
see me?
Yeah. No, we cannot see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on.
We
Just
wait until
camera.
the image comes, video comes.
Let's continue. Yeah, there it's come back.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't
Can you
see
see me
Aparna.
now?
No, I can't
Uh,
see Aparna ji now.
I don't know. You should be able to see me. I don't know why not.
Are you seeing Premendra? Are you seeing Aparna ji or
no,
I'm not?
she's not visible, but camera. I think the camera is to make on. I'm asking Deban to help you. Just a
Okay.
minute.
Okay. All right. Shall we wait?
Deban,
Better to wait, I think.
uh, but we can listen. We can hear you properly. The participants are requested to stay. She'll be joining right now. There is a power cut at her place.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Ma'am, just switch on your video once. It will be on the top, just beside the blue icon.
What do you want me to? The blue icon? Yeah. What about blue icon?
Just left to it, there is another icon, that is the video icon, ma'am. The blue icon is the for mic, it's on.
Uh-huh.
Just left to it,
There
there
is
is
nothing.
another icon.
Oh, acha, okay, got it. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay.
I'm back. Hello, everyone.
Okay. I think that question. Do you want to say anything more about this political role of the filmmaker? Interrupted.
Yeah,
Anything?
well, yeah, what I was saying is I lost track of it. is that I think it is important for the artist to react to these things without preaching. And to, for instance, if you think something very unfair is going on in society, it's important to talk about it without preaching, with trying to, in fact, make some, most of the time, like in Mr. and Mrs. Iyer, I felt that when people are killed in riots, you just hear numbers, that so many people were killed, so many people were killed. Now these numbers are given faces by the filmmaker.
In this, in Gare Baire Aaj,
Yeah.
Nikhilesh is Bengali, Sandeep is not Bengali. Is there any commentary here on the right wing being outside the
Of course, of course
being
there is. Of
that
course,
the,
there is, and it's very important, because I feel that the idea of the India that I love, the pluralistic, the rich, diverse India that I have loved and I've been a proud citizen of, that India is changing, and I don't want it to change. And
okay,
Ghore Bandi Aaj was the story was perfect, a foil for this, because if you somebody said, why is it so political? So I said, if you read Tagore's Ghore Baire, then you will see how political it is.
okay,
Politics is a very, very important element of the story itself.
okay.
But it was the politics of that time, and because I'm making it today, it's the politics of today.
Is there any, I mean, what I meant was, is there any commentary here on right wing politics being external to Bengal in some way, intrinsically?
Not about Bengal, because it's set in Delhi.
Ah, okay, okay,
The
okay,
film is
right.
set in Delhi.
Yeah, she lives in Delhi, correct? That's right, that's right. So it's not,
Hmm.
Bengal is not an issue there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Can you say something about the women filmmakers from around the world who, what line of inquiry they should take? What is your any idea about any on what about generally about women filmmakers in the world? Do they have to
Well,
face this?
I'm not so aware of the present women filmmakers in the world, except for some people, like, for instance, um, uh, what was the film that she made, Lost in Translation?
Okay,
Uh,
Coppola, Sofia Coppola.
Coppola, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, she is very, very good, I think. And then I've seen a whole number at film festivals, but I can't remember their names.
Okay,
It's very difficult. But I do know filmmakers in India who are very good,
okay.
and I admire them a lot. And I think the number of women filmmakers in India has increased a lot,
Yes, quite a
and
few.
that's a very, very encouraging sign.
Yeah, okay. So I think this generally completes my thing. Shall we start with the questions? Questions now? You can ask questions. It will come to the end. Okay.
Any questions from anyone?
Okay. We are not finding parallel cinema filmmakers now, and legendary filmmakers are not making films. What is your take on parallel cinema? Anything on what was called parallel cinema? It seems to disappear now in some sense, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's no longer relevant.
Okay.
Because the stories now, the kind of films you have now are all, now story is king. You don't have those blockbusters. I mean, once in a while you do, but the as I was saying, the divide between what used to be known as parallel cinema and what used to be known as commercial cinema, that line has blurred.
Yeah. So I
That
would say
line is no
that
longer so
there is
marked.
now, I think, there is now entertainment cinema, which is like the lunchbox and all that, which is not parallel cinema. At the same time, it is not. So yeah, you're right about it. Pink. Some of these films.
Lunchbox would have been considered parallel cinema. When we used to talk about parallel cinema, it would have been considered parallel cinema, because it has none of the sort of typical formula entertainment stuff in it at all.
At the same time, it doesn't have a issue-based thing, right? Parallel
And
cinema is
I,
issue-based.
in
Like, well,
any case, I personally don't like issue based cinema.
yes, yeah. But
In
you said
fact, parallel cinema, I think, died a premature death because it concentrated too much on issues and less on individuals.
it's there. Art cinema is still there in some sense. That it's still visible here and there. It doesn't, for
What?
example, at Benegal and people like Govind Nihalani, Benegal, that kind of parallel cinema, which was, I think,
Yeah, they
at
are
one
not
point was
making.
pretty powerful. It was pretty
They're
powerful.
not.
It had a,
Yeah, but they're not making films so
you
much
know,
anymore.
yeah.
I don't see them making films anymore.
Okay, I've got some more questions. Um, we have seen a wide change in the distribution process of cinema. Nowadays, OTT platform or web media is growing. So, what is your response to this OTT?
I
New
think
platforms are coming.
I think it's good because it's exposes people to. I mean, you get a lot of exposure to world cinema through OTT platforms.
Yeah.
Earlier, you had to depend on film society shows or film festivals. But
Okay.
now, because of the OTT platform, you are exposed to world cinema very easily.
Okay. And also, I think when it comes to OTT platforms, this important thing is that new people can get an opening there, right? They don't have to depend on distribution in cinema theaters. It probably
Yeah, that's one. And then also, censorship issues are not there.
okay, censorship, yeah, it's not there. So I think probably on the low budget films which reach a certain level of, quality, they seem to find, no, I mean, if you can manage it, probably works out profitable, you can show it and it reaches a number of people.
Yeah, you can definitely, except that I think it's quite expensive to actually, um, I mean, when they buy, I don't think that kind of, the producer's cost is covered.
Okay,
They don't pay a great deal.
which these OTT platforms, they don't pay.
I think I'm under that impression, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. Could you, Aparna ji, could you please advise one quintessential element for new filmmakers to remember while making their films? Advice for new filmmakers for a first time.
Advice to new filmmakers would be, there are so many variables in a film, so many things can go wrong and will go wrong. It's very important to stick to your vision, remain calm, and think on your feet that certain thing that you had planned, has not worked out. So immediately you must have an alternative in mind, what to do. It's very important, and be remain true to your vision at the same time.
Um, there's one person asking, Sujata S, why are we not, why is this emphasis on realism? So rather than, you don't have surrealism, for instance, and you don't have the, I'm talking about the art film, the parallel film, or whatever has replaced it. There seems to be a thing on realism in some sort. There seem to be, that fantastic element, the surreal element is missing.
No, there is, there are in at least in some of my films there have been,
Yeah.
but also in films all over the world. Run, Lola, Run. That is not realistic at all.
So Indian cinema, I think you're talking about. Your film, this.
Talking about Indian cinema, yeah, there is this absolutely fantastic film that I've seen by Tyagaraja and Rajakumara called Super Deluxe.
Oh
You
yes,
know,
yes, yes, yes.
it's not realistic. It's
It's a
very weird and
like
very sort of,
elements of
yeah.
Alibaba in it. Yes, a little bit. What
There
is your?
are films like that. You have films like that, but the thing is, one doesn't get to see all of them.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, that's right.
And I don't think that there is any it is not incumbent upon the filmmaker to constantly make films that are that reflect everyday reality. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You can make surreal films, you can make fantasy films, you can make so many different kinds of films.
15 Park Avenue, the closing thing is sort of magical realist. She disappears into the house. There's no house, but she disappears. Right? She goes into the house. 15 Park Avenue. In
I'm
your
sorry.
in your film 15 Park Avenue,
Huh. Yeah, at the
yeah,
end.
yeah, it's magical realist kind of
Yeah, then
thought.
you go into magic realism.
Yeah,
Then
it's real.
in my film called Arshi Nagor, I've had sets where furniture, which people don't actually sit on or use, furniture is painted. You
Okay,
know,
okay,
because and the cityscape, for instance, Lucknow is shown. The terrace is real, but the cityscape is painted. You know, because I wanted to introduce the element of theater
okay.
because it was based on a Shakespeare play.
Which was that? Which was the play?
This film you probably haven't seen. It's called Arshi Nagor.
Okay,
It's based on Romeo and Juliet, where Juliet is a Muslim girl and Romeo is a Hindu boy.
okay. Ashok Ray says the character Cuckoo was portrayed in a very thoughtful manner. The two Rabindra Sangeet was chosen. And
Hmm.
what was the thing? Did you use? I mean, this thing she sings beautifully. The fact, I mean, how did you use music in that way? In that, it brings a certain the use of music in that film, singing
Yeah.
especially in the
So I
character.
thought Cuckoo, because this I told you about this relative of mine. She
Okay,
also used to be a very good singer. Gradually, she lost her voice.
okay,
But Cuckoo, when for a long time she used to be able to sing very well, and I thought that the fact that Cuckoo still sings,
okay,
that's one element of her life which is kind of which is like a release,
okay.
you know.
Yeah,
And also I could then use the songs very effectively, as montages.
I think in Satyajitra is which is that Chaka Prusaka. There's a played by Soumitra. I think he's mentally, he's I think schizophrenic also. Also, music is very important thing there, right? Like, he listens to music, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
he constantly listens to
Yeah,
classical music.
because I think probably this thing, the irrational thing that is no longer this, that this thing of a rational world. So probably music has that thing. Probably, it
Yeah,
touches is possible. Yeah, that sort of thing. Today, okay, there's a question. Today is the birthday of the great filmmaker Ritu Parna Ghosh. Uh,
yeah.
can you say something about Ritu Parna Ghosh? Because I think that there was, you were, I mean,
I
his
think Ritu understood the Bengali middle class very, very well.
okay,
And he portrayed the Bengali middle class very perceptively.
okay,
And, he had a lot more to give, I think. He just died too early, unfortunately.
okay,
And I was very fond of him. It's very difficult for me to see him objectively
okay,
because he was really like a brother, like a sibling,
okay,
more than anything else. So it's difficult for me to say anything, but I think he was a very, very talented filmmaker.
okay. What is your thing on somebody is asking about Tollywood? What is your thing on Uttam Kumar movies? Already said in the interview that you didn't pay much attention to popular cinema, Bengali cinema. Since then,
So Uttam Kumar was a very, very fine actor, and I think anywhere else, if he had been born anywhere else outside of India,
okay,
he would actually have risen to far greater heights. Even today, so many years after his death,
okay,
you know, he's still popular. His films, when they're shown, are still popular. So he had that star quality, and then he was also a good actor. He was a very good actor. As an act, I as an actor, when I acted with him, uh, really felt that he responded very beautifully. When one acts two actors, you don't just act separately. You have to respond to each other's the slightest nuances, and he did that. I used to admire him tremendously, and I also found him a very gracious and gentlemanly person.
okay. I mean, are you following newer popular cinema in Bengali cinema, Bengali
About popular cinema in Bengal.
popular cinema? Is there
Well,
any?
I'm not terribly attracted to popular cinema, I'm afraid.
Okay, okay. So okay, that's because somebody is asking these questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Asking, which is your favorite film among yours? Somebody is asking. Would you like to answer
My
that?
own film.
Yeah, your own films.
I think I can't just say one. It's very difficult. Of course, 36 Chowringhee Lane was my first film. It was like an inspiration, like a love affair almost.
Okay.
Mm. That, of course, is there. But Paromita Ragdin and The Japanese Wife uh, are two of my better films, I think.
Okay. Trying to look at these questions. I mean, most of these questions are hello, hello kind of things. What aspects of gender would you like to work on? Is another question.
What aspects of?
Gender would you still like to work on? Is a question which somebody is asking.
I don't understand. What aspects of gender?
Gender, would you still like to work on? Where the question
Gender.
is yes, gender. Yeah,
Yeah,
gender.
yeah. I would. I'm interested in not only women. I'm also interested in transgender. In fact, I have a transgender character
Okay,
in Film Sonata.
okay,
I'm interested in queer people. I mean, actually interested in people
okay,
generally
okay.
speaking.
Okay, I think we'll run out of questions of there, but they're all largely hello, hello kind of questions.
I think we've crossed 1 hour anyway.
Yeah, we can. Seem to run out of it. Okay, will you think of any cinema in this pandemic situation? Can this become a subject for film? Pandemic situation.
No, I've been racking my brains actually, but I
Okay,
haven't yet figured out.
okay,
Some ideas keep coming vaguely, but they it's difficult. They come vague ideas. Like Mrinal Sen's Onturin, that film Onturin, that would have been perfect for a film during pandemic because the characters never meet.
okay.
In
Yeah,
fact, there are only two characters.
yeah,
One is in she's incarcerated in a room.
okay,
People don't know why, and the other is just talks to her on the telephone.
okay. This, I think, we will have to get through this pandemic before we start thinking about making films
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
pandemic.
quite right, quite yeah.
Okay, somebody's asked, were you in any way influenced in Parameter Exin, directly or indirectly influenced by Cries and Whispers? Asking. So I don't know.
No, no, no,
Okay,
no. I can't actually. I find it very difficult to say what influenced me because as I keep saying, that it's a very subconscious process.
okay. Yeah, correct. Yeah, we've already discussed this, I think. Somebody from Nepal, Satish Gautam is Nepali film is dominated by Bollywood. Can we work for a joint cinema in Nepal and Hindi language? Somebody's asking.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Something about Indian cinema being a hegemonic relationship with Nepali cinema. That is, Nepali cinema is so overwhelmed by Indian cinema in some sense. Is it possible to have a collaboration? I don't know how to answer this.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to
What do you
say.
think of race? This is an interesting question. Sujata asks, uh, race as a political filmmaker. Okay, is ideological. What is your
Oh,
ideological
Ray,
department?
I think was very political in his. He never preached, but if you watch his films like Pratidwandi or John Oronno or
Okay,
Mahanagor,
okay,
immediately you know that he was very aware of what's happening
okay,
around him,
okay,
and the contemporary reality is
okay.
reflected, and you can see that he's a very like kind of, again, he is a left liberal as a filmmaker. That's very obvious.
But I think he was again not doctrinaire. He was trying to deal with individual choice. How does one conduct oneself in society more than talking
Yeah,
about society as a
yeah,
system.
he always spoke through individuals, but
Yeah,
he was really looking into the Naxalite question in
yeah,
Pratidandi,
yeah. How to, yeah,
and
more,
looking at it with sympathy, trying to understand it.
at that point, Ray and Mrinal Sen were sort of very different from each other, and it was a kind of conflict of some sort, almost in the public space. It was seen as a conflict of some sort, Ray or Sen kind of thing. What is your, I mean, on the Naxalite thing itself? Generally,
Well,
what
I think I think Ray was trying to understand the reason why young people were becoming Naxalites
okay,
more than anything else.
okay,
Uh, and I think Mrinal Sen's sympathies lay more with the Naxalites.
okay. This is more, I think, Mrinal Sen, I think, was already persuaded. Ray was in the, was weighing his proposition.
Ray was trying to understand. Ray
Okay,
was trying to understand the reasons for the unrest, because he realized that that people were not doing it for fun. People don't, for instance, risk their lives for the heck of it.
yeah, okay.
But so he understood the reason, and he shows those reasons very well in Pruthvi.
That's
It's
good.
one of my favorite films.
Yes, Project Vandi. Also, Janaranya is another one of my favorites.
John
Janaranya,
O'Connor is a great
very,
favorite of mine also.
very big film. Yeah. What about acting? What do you think? I mean, not you as an actress. I mean, directing actors. What kind of actors would you pick? What kind of how would you direct actors in the sense of
It's always a pleasure if you can find professional actors. Particularly stage actors are very, very good. At least people who have had some experience with stage, like Jennifer, like Shabana, like Konkona, like Lilette Dubey. All these people have had experiences with the stage. Then another guy that I took in Ghare Bhai Riyaj, Anirban. All of these people have had experiences in theatre,
okay,
and they are disciplined, and they are much more. They're I think they somehow I find it easy to work with them. I find it's always nice, if you have an intelligent, perceptive, sensitive actor who is able to convey his or her emotions easily, has a mobile face. But sometimes, you have to take actors who are not so good actors, but who look the part completely, and cast them, and then use them, like the little boy in Pothe Panchali
yes,
was not an actor. He had to be told everything, but he looked the part so much
yes.
that Ray took him.
So I mean, non-actors, even Kiarostami does that. It takes non-actors,
Yeah,
use them in some sense without they knowing exactly what they're doing. You think the actor
yeah,
should know he or she is doing?
yeah. You
Fully
can
like,
use them. Sometimes, sometimes they will give surprisingly good performances,
okay.
and sometimes not. I mean,
Like I don't know. In the normally they said the dog acted very well, and obviously a dog doesn't act right. But the point is that when a dog is put in certain circumstances, you can get a performance of some sort, right? In the sense
I'm
it's
so-
used in a context that you get. I'm saying a
I do
dog. Can you hear
a
me?
dog,
A
a
dog.
dog.
This is, for example, animals are used in movies. Obviously, they
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
act. They can't
yeah.
act,
I
right?
have some experience of that in 36 Chorangi Lane.
Okay.
Dog and cat.
Cat. Yes, yes, yes. Sir Toby, right? Sir Toby is the name of the cat.
Toby, yes,
Sir
Toby.
Toby, I remember that. Yeah.
Yes, it was very interesting. So Toby, whose real name was Kitty, it was actually a she.
Okay.
But the Hemant, who was the owner of the cat, because apparently cats can't be trained. But
Okay.
Hemant, who was the owner of the cat, he was very good, very helpful. And also,
Okay.
we found out certain things about the cat. For instance, a cat is very particular about its paws being clean. So,
Okay.
whenever we wanted the cat to sit still, we would put butter on his paws.
Okay.
And he would lick the butter clean. And he would sit there until the butter was licked clean and his paws were clean.
Okay.
So, that really helped. And then we found we had given him a little bit of tranquilizer, very tiny dose, just to make him calm. But her calm, actually, it was a she. But that we found made her very thirsty. So then we found that if we gave her that and then we gave her milk, then she would immediately have the milk. So these
Okay.
are things that we found out along the way.
Okay.
And then for the dog who had to follow Miss Tonam, at the side of at the side, on one side, it's not really seen very well. We had to smear some mutton, the gravy of some mutton curry,
Okay.
because it was not going to follow. It was only going to follow if it got the smell of mutton.
Okay. Another interesting question here. How do you interpret the interpersonal relationship between Paromita and a mother-in-law and the bathing together scene?
Well, there, there's a little bit of a gray area,
Okay.
because I think, particularly from the mother-in-law's side, because she has not received the kind of love that she has wanted, or the kind of understanding,
Okay.
the kind of friendship. So she develops this friendship with Paramita, and
Okay.
they both have children who are challenged. So that's one common ground.
Okay.
Uh, and they form this friendship, but there's also a gray area. There's a scene where they're bathing together. So that's some people can consider that a little. um, and also at the end, when she's very sick and Parumita comes, then what is playing on the radio is a Vaishnav Padavali, uh, you know, বহুদিন পরে বধূ আইলে দেখা না হইতো নয়ন. This is a very famous Vaishnav poem, which is made into, these are sung. So that is being sung on the television. So that's really very, that she comes. বহুদিন পরে বধূ আইলে means, my friend, you have come after a long time. And if I had died, then I wouldn't have seen you. So that's actually spoken to a beloved. So there is a gray area which I've left deliberately gray.
Another question from Prerna is, time in your films feels very different, unhurried. The story thickens in time. Can you please talk about your script writing process in this context?
Yeah, well, I don't like to hurry through my films,
Okay.
because I want to create moments for the audience to savor.
Okay.
And also, the story dictates the pace of the film. It depends on the story. I mean, for instance, a Pather Pachali cannot be made in a, like, for instance, one of the detective stories today.
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the story itself dictates the pace of the film.
Yeah. The French, I think, some of them found it very slow in some sense. That was a big complaint against Pather Panchali because they subsequently said,
But then once I found that people, hurriedly came in whenever you had a show. They were coming from us. Then it took them about 10 minutes. Then they get used to that pace. Then they start identifying with the characters and so on. You have to have a little bit of patience, and I think film viewing needs a little bit of training.
yeah. I think watching film itself needs training of some sort. You can't,
Yeah, because
yeah.
if you're too impatient and if you can't understand something, you immediately leave and you forget about it. Then everything has to be handed to you on a platter.
Yeah.
Everything has to be spelt out.
What
So
you,
in that case, all the nuances, all the layers of meaning, those go away. You might as well watch a rom-com.
in fact, yeah, I think people must be able to understand the interpersonal body language and all that. To be able to read that requires
Yeah,
sensitivity. That's right. I think, I mean, that you have to generally watch films and develop as an audience also. What is
yeah.
one question? What is your next film, man? That's a question. Somebody saying.
Well, I don't like to talk about a film. I'm very superstitious. I don't like to talk about a film until we've started.
Okay. I think they're generally completely.
But it's about things that are happening in a.
Yeah.
It's not a period film or anything like that. It's a
Yes, I mean,
present day.
given the present this COVID crisis or whatever, and the fact that it's likely to go on, have you thought of how you're going to go about shooting films and what exactly you're
Yeah, that we are contemplating that, but we haven't come to any definite decision. We
film?
actually have to see. We actually have to see
Okay,
how things are developing.
okay. Will you have to? I mean, will you have to alter your entire perspective on cinema? What kind of films you're going to make because of this crisis? What do you think?
So we have to think about sanitizing the area properly and taking precautions, so
Okay.
on.
So Rita Datta asks, what is your take on Death in the Gunj, the subversive version of masculine Death in the Gunj?
I thought it was it was very good film. And Konkona, I read the script.
Okay,
She also, like me, in 36, she also had the whole film in the picture, the visuals of the film very clearly in her mind.
okay,
And that script went through many versions, because she kept correcting it, and I think it finally turned out to be a extremely well made film. It was my take on it is that it is in many ways a feminist film, because it is about as I said, the idea of feminism has changed to include all the marginalized people. Here it's about the patriarchal system where men are expected to be strong, and any man who's weak is bullied to the point of being driven to suicide.
okay. So I think any other questions? I think we've run out of questions here. Anything interesting? So no.
Okay,
Otherwise,
then let's find out.
okay, we'll wind up. So thanks, Aparna GM. It's a
Thank you very
pleasure
much.
talking to you.
Thank
Thank
you, Raghavendra. Pleasure.
you.
Bye bye.